They don't want you to know that before Europe embraced Christianity, before Rome fell to invading tribes, an African empire was already worshipping Christ. It was building monolithic churches, carved straight from solid rock, and sending missionaries across oceans. This isn't a tale from fantasy. It's the true, untold story of the Aksumite Empire, Africa's lost Christian kingdom, long before colonization, long before slavery, long before the Western world ever set foot on African soil. Christianity was already flourishing in the highlands of what we now call Ethiopia and Eritrea. And yet, when we think of Christian history, we're taught to look only west, to Rome, to Constantinople, to Jerusalem. But what if the truth was hidden in plain sight? What if one of the oldest Christian empires on earth existed not in Europe, but in Africa? It's time to unearth what they've tried to bury. Because this is not just a history lesson, it's a reclaiming. The Kingdom of Aksum emerged as a formidable force around the 1st century AD. It straddled the Red Sea. It controlled trade between Rome, India, Arabia, and the heart of Africa. Its capital, also named Aksum, sat perched on a high plateau, surrounded by mountains, forests, rivers, an isolated citadel protected by nature itself. From this seat of power, Aksum thrived. It minted its own gold coins. It raised towering stone obelisks. It carved its chronicles in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic script, still used in Ethiopian liturgy today. But it wasn't until the early 4th century, under the rule of King Ezana, that something extraordinary happened. According to both Ethiopian tradition and Roman sources, King Ezana converted to Christianity around 330 AD. That's nearly 3 centuries before most of Europe officially embraced the faith. His teacher and spiritual guide was a Syrian Christian named Frumentius. Shipwrecked on the Aksumite coast as a child, Frumentius was brought to court as a slave. He grew close to Ezana, eventually becoming a trusted advisor. And when Ezana rose to power, Frumentius helped introduce him to Christian teachings. In time, Ezana didn't just convert. He declared Christianity the official religion of his kingdom, making Aksum one of the first states in the world to do so. Let that sink in. This wasn't a fringe movement. It wasn't a passing interest. It was royal policy. Centuries before Clovis baptized France, before Vladimir converted Kievan Rus, before Constantine ruled from Constantinople. And the evidence, it's not just oral tradition or church legend. Archaeologists have unearthed coins minted during Ezana's reign, stamped with the cross, replacing earlier pagan symbols. His inscriptions, written in both Ge'ez and Greek, speak of the Lord of Heaven and of victories won by the power of the God of the Christians. The Aksumites didn't stop there. They built churches unlike anything else on earth. In the town of Lalibela, hundreds of years later. But rooted in the same tradition, master artisans carved entire cathedrals out of solid rock, not stone blocks, not quarried bricks, but living rock, chiseled downward into the earth. Entire sanctuaries, hidden from above. The Church of St. George, shaped like a perfect cross, stands over 40 feet tall, yet it lies below ground level, its roof flush with the Ethiopian soil. Pilgrims walk down into it, as though descending into the heart of the earth to meet the divine. How did they do it? Why this method of building? Some say it was to protect the churches from Muslim invaders. Others believe it was a divine instruction, given in dreams to King Lalibela in the 12th century. But the deeper truth is this. These marvels trace their lineage back to Aksum, to a time when Africa led, not followed. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, still thriving today, sees itself as the direct heir of that ancient empire. Its prayers are still sung in Ge'ez. Its priests still wear robes that echo ancient Aksumite designs. Its rituals preserve centuries-old rites, untouched by Roman influence, and yet the Western world barely whispers its name. Why? Why has the Aksumite Empire, a major power, a Christian superstate, a diplomatic partner of Byzantium and Persia, been erased from common memory? Some historians point to its geographic isolation. Others blame the rise of Islam in the 7th century, which cut Aksum off from Mediterranean trade. Over time, the empire declined. It retreated into the highlands. But let's be honest, the story doesn't end with simple geography. The erasure is also ideological. For centuries, European historians painted Africa as a land without civilization, without books, without God, a blank slate waiting to be saved. But Aksum proves that life was. It was literate, it was sovereign, and it was Christian, on its own terms. This was a faith born not of conquest, but of curiosity, carried by shipwrecked travelers, adopted by kings, carved into stone by believers who never once bowed to Rome. Even the Ark of the Covenant, yes, the very one from biblical legend, is believed by Ethiopian Christians to rest within their borders, guarded by monks in the holy city of Aksum, never seen by outsiders. Skeptics dismiss the claim. Believers insist it's true. But whatever the case, the symbolism is powerful. Ethiopia did not just receive Christianity, it became a custodian of its deepest mysteries. There are other stories too, buried in dusty manuscripts, whispered in mountain monasteries, like the tale of the 9 saints. Missionaries from the Eastern Roman Empire. They arrived in Ethiopia in the 5th and 6th centuries, fleeing theological disputes in Constantinople. They brought liturgical texts, hymns, monastic traditions. They translated the Bible into Ge'ez. They built schools. They taught theology, long before Europe's first universities were founded. Or the Ethiopian chronicles that describe a connection between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, a tale preserved in the Kebra Nagast, a 14th century manuscript, blending history, myth, and theology. According to this tradition, the Queen of Sheba bore Solomon a son, Menelik I. He later brought the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia. Ethiopian emperors for centuries claimed descent from this Solomonic line, asserting divine legitimacy, a royal lineage, older than most European thrones. How much of it is fact? How much myth? Scholars debate the details, but the impact is undeniable. For Ethiopians, their Christianity is not borrowed. It is indigenous. It is royal. It is ancient. And that's what makes it dangerous to colonial narratives, to Eurocentric textbooks, to the fragile scaffolding of Western historical supremacy. This is forbidden knowledge not because it is false, but because it is true, because it tells us Africa was not waiting for salvation. Africa was building cathedrals. Africa was sending missionaries. Africa was writing gospels in her own tongue. Why is it missing from the curriculum? Why do so few people know of Aksum? The silence speaks volumes, and yet, despite centuries of marginalization, the legacy survives. In the chants of Ethiopian monks, in the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, in the faces of modern worshippers who trace their faith not to missionaries, but to kings. Aksum may no longer rule an empire, but its spirit still reigns. In every whispered prayer, in every preserved manuscript, in every sacred procession winding through the mountains of Ethiopia. And perhaps that is the most powerful legacy of all. But here's the mystery. If Aksum was once so powerful, economically, spiritually, and militarily, what truly caused its fall? Was it merely isolation and trade decline? Or was there something deeper, something we've yet to uncover? In the ashes of forgotten temples, and the scrolls still hidden in stone libraries? And what of the Ark of the Covenant? Could the greatest relic in Judeo-Christian tradition really be hidden in a remote Ethiopian chapel, unseen by the world for over 2,000 years? That, dear viewer, is a story for another day. If this journey moved you, if it stirred something ancient in your soul, then don't let it fade into silence. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. You've been watching History of the Map, where the forgotten past lives again, and trust me, we're only just beginning.